Okay. Okay, everybody. Welcome to CICCSI 2020. I want to welcome, and it is my pleasure to introduce you two of my dearest friends, and I would like to take a moment to thank them for this extraordinary opportunity to have this casual conversation with both of them. So let's welcome two of the most influential thought leaders of this century, Arie van Bennekum and Alistair Cockburn, authors of the Agile Manifesto, the work that started the mindset revolution of almost every professional in our industry, and that now it has transcended its scope to other fields of knowledge. So here I give you Arie and Alistair.
Hello, Arie. What a surprise to see you.
Yeah, very big surprise, eh? So, before going into this talk, of course, I got the question, when did you guys see each other? Well, that was 2001 and 2011, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And I remember at one moment in time that you and I were chatting up and down because you were in the south of France and I was too. Yeah. Right? But we didn't get, manage to see each other because the south of France also has some distance to take. That was maybe 4 or 5 years ago or something. I don't know.
Well, what strikes me is you seem to have the copy of the questions in front of you, and I don't. So I just, you'll have to ask what the question is, as opposed to just answering it. Except I figured out what this question was, which is when was the last time you saw each other.
That's very great because I can ask I can put any question on the table now, right?
Okay, let's keep it fair and let me ask you about a question.
No. I like his questions better than your questions, and I haven't even seen them.
Okay, then go for it. Because this is about you. This is about you two guys, and whatever you want to talk, it's going to be the most valuable thing we can give our audience. So please go on.
Maybe Hero, you could put them in the private chat or something so I could see them, or in the WhatsApp so I could see them. I wouldn't mind having an idea what you had in mind.
Oh. Let me start with another one, Alistair. Maybe we can because I'm a wine lover. It's Friday evening. It's 8 o'clock here in South Africa. I'm having my glass of wine. I had a lovely fish curry, right? Great. I'm a wine lover, but even though that I'm a wine lover already for 35 years, once in a while you bump into something you think, awesome, absolutely great. Do you have such a moment in your agile life where you thought, what is the thing that you thought, oh man, awesome, great, that you got from someone?
Yeah, but you're saying not about wine, but about agile now.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Give me a moment. Yeah, there have been several. Lately, I've been complimenting and calling out Gabrielle Benefield a lot. Because she's not nearly well enough known as she should be. She was doing this sort of agile product management stuff in the late 90s. She's built out a thing called Mobius now. But I took her course in 2013, and I didn't, I knew all the techniques. That wasn't the thing. But when I listened to her stories, and I looked at her Mobius, that was in 2013 when I said, we're at the end, we're in the post-agile era now. Because everything she did presupposed having agile in your bloodstream, in your reflexes. You couldn't find the word agile in any of her things because you couldn't do any of her things if you didn't already have the agile mindset. So that was like this big moment for me. It was like that was a shock moment for me. The other one would have been, I guess, when I encountered Lean Startup and I saw software stuff, but applied to startups and businesses. Those were two like shock moments for me. The Agile Lean Startup was around 2011, I guess, 2010, 2011. Those are for me. What about for you? Did you have any?
Yeah, the one that strikes me the most still is on the side of a real surprise is that the phrase business agility has become sort of on the table since the last couple of years only. And for me, agility is about the business. I mean, if you're just one area of an organization trying to do the agile thing to deliver the value, but I mean, you don't do it all together. You get still bumping into all those problems that we try to overcome when we're all I mean, every one of us was starting to work in a different way, somewhere in the 90s, right? Because you were not happy with the way waterfall traditional processes worked. That's one. And the other one that really struck me is that human beings don't like change, right? Whatever we say, they don't like change, and they like to get stuck to what they have. But that whatever happens, we're only 20 years old from that perspective, and that it's now on the table of almost every organization in the globe. And right now I'm in South Africa. It's not the first time. I've been in China, I've been in Thailand, I've been in Korea, I've been in Japan, and it's everywhere, right? And that's, I don't know about you, but when we were in Salt Lake writing, I still remember, for example, the dinner we had the night before. We were sitting somewhere on the 9th floor, if I'm correct, and having that dinner, and you have no clue that what you are doing at that moment, which just comes from your heart, because that was, I was there because I was asked to do something that I like, and then it's all over the world all of a sudden, right? And there have been some pretty good marketeers in the group that we had at the time, of course, but there's a secret driving force behind all this, and it's only 20 years old, and that's one that when I sit sometimes on the couch, that still amazes me.
Yeah. The spread, it's everywhere I go. So I have a story, and I love telling stories. And I was in Argentina, and I was in the back woods of Argentina, some place. Where's the place with all the colored rocks that go up, and there's this these cities with these. It's not Salta, it's north. It's around that area.
Jujuy, Quebrada de Humahuaca.
Yeah, that's right. Humahuaca.
Humahuaca, yeah.
And I was with my with a friend of mine, and we decided not to take the bus from small town A to small town B in the middle of the summer. It was in January, so really, really hot. And we're walking through the park, and we asked this young couple, do they know where the bus picks us up? And they said, "Oh, the bus is going to be here in a couple of hours." I said, "But we'll drive you there because we're going north. We'll take you there." So we jump in their little car, and we're driving, and then the guy starts talking. He's a software developer for Globo or something like this. and my friend is looking at me, and she's like, "Are you going to say anything?" And I go, "I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything." So we drive, we talk, we stop. We get out of the car. It looks like an old Western Clint Eastwood movie, kind of a town. We get out, and I hand him my business card, and he looks at it, and he says, "Alistair, that's a popular name." And of course, I know it's his English, so it's not a popular name, but he's like, it's hitting some neuron up there somewhere, right? And I go, yeah, fine. Thank you for the ride. So they take off, and then we do our thing, and I'm back in Buenos Aires. About 2 weeks later, I get in. We're on WhatsApp and talking, and I get a note from him. He says, "You're Alistair Cockburn, right?" I go, shit, he found out, and now we're all friends, the four of us, and they got married, and then they had a baby, and I went and saw the baby, and this is what agile is these days. This is the level at which you can't escape it, right? Literally hitchhiking in the back of Argentina somewhere.
Yeah, I always say, when you're at the local football club at the bar after the game drinking a beer, and someone next to you starts talking 10-1, it's an agile coach, right? That's what I always say. It's funny. I would because we don't talk that much, Alistair. I would like to ask you a question in terms of adopting it, because it's on the table everywhere. Adopting agile transformations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you? I have my opinion about this, and I will share it with you, of course. But I'm very curious. What is, in your perception, at this moment in time, the biggest hurdle to overcome if you want to make an organization agile? How do you see that?
Well, I don't do it. So there's it's not that I refuse the assignment, but I dodge the assignment, and I've got a problem with agile transformations at every level, both the moral, ethical level and pragmatic level, practical level. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. It's just, well, let's just start with the word transformation is already wrong, because the word transformation implies an end point, and there's no end point, right? It's just it's an ordinary evolution of the company. You don't get there. There's no there when you get there. And the other problem is because there's a category of questions that I always refuse to answer, which is, how do I make that person over there behave the way that I want them to when they don't want to? And I go, A, I don't think there's an answer, and B, if there was one, I wouldn't tell it to you, because then, you know, some country we don't like would get a hold of the technology and do it, right? So it's not like they don't need to change, right? And the other thing is, I just got done talking about it. It's kind of top of my mind these days. It's structure versus attitude, right? So success comes from improving the attitude. In fact, I just wrote, you know, attitude over structure, right? Because it's not, sometimes you need to change the structure to get a change, but the big change comes from the attitude.
Absolutely.
And executives could buy structure. You could go buy 10 of them. I got $10 million, give me 5 structures. And you install it, and you put it on a Gantt chart, and you roll it out, right? But attitude you can't put on a Gantt chart. You can't buy, I got 10 million. Give me a rollout of attitude in my, you know, 10,000 or 500 person company, right? So this is the thing when you say, what's the objection? But I guess, but, you know, the thing I do and I love to do is, and I've done this, and I won't name any companies in this particular, you know, chat, is I've done it with some notable companies. They bring me in and say something about agile transformation, and I say, well, you know, the first thing to recognize is it's going to take 10 years. Anything less than 10 years, don't even think about it. The clock tick, the minimum cycle time for cultural change is 18 months. The first 18 months, you know nothing. You know nothing. After 18 months, you can take a check, right? 2 clock ticks is 3 years. So you're really 3 years before you even could do an assessment. You've got 2 clock ticks. And I got called into company, big company, and they said, we're really depressed because we've been at this for 14 months and we haven't seen the changes yet. And I go, there's a what I call a snapback effect after 14 months. So for 12 months, the executives win. They pile on the money. It's dangerous to be against the initiative. Everything looks rosy. After 12 months, the executives pick the next initiative for the next year. Things start to go wrong. And about 14 months, all the people who hated the initiative from the beginning leap out of the bushes and the trees with the clubs and mount a counterattack. And I've seen this in any industry, any size company, or it's got nothing to do with agile. So this is the thing. You say, well, what's the problem? The first thing is to change the timelines, because you can't buy attitude. 18-month clock tick. ING took 10 years. I did an audit on ING, and it wasn't a 3-year thing. It was a 10-year thing. And there's a lot more detail behind it. So that's a long answer. It's a multi-part answer, but all of my answers are multi-part answers. So that's what I got. Arie, your turn.
Yeah, it's a mindset, right? It starts with the mindset, and technology helps, so we know this. And the mindset implies, okay, we have to change. The point is, we talk also about the organization or the company, but the thing is, in a company, if you have 5,000 people, 5,000 individuals have to change, right? Yeah. And the good thing is, you cannot change another person. You can't. People can only change themselves if they find the motivation. Yeah. And then I think, because I can see the biggest obstacle from my perception, right, in agile transformations or whatever word you use, and it's the leadership team. Because I like to make the metaphor, right? So you have a team, they're good at playing football. But now, you know, for obvious reasons, we go to play hockey. And as a football team, they were doing a good job. And then instantly everybody expects that, you know, when you start playing hockey, you're as good in 2 weeks as you were playing football before, which is ridiculous. And all those misperceptions And I think, because for me, culture is nothing else than a set of shared habits shared by individuals, right? And in a company, you have these habits shared, and changing that means that you have to do that collectively together and, on the inside. And that's, let me put it mildly, underestimated. And we hide into into mechanical things. So I always call it the difference between doing agile and being agile. And the moment that a tool comes around the corner, we are agile because we do Jira or something, right? That kind of thing that you get thrown at. And the mindset is always forgotten. And there was I was confronted with a study a couple of months ago that was done, and that most agile transformations are not successful. No, because you never get in, if you want to use that word, in that disruptive change. Companies don't even get there. And what you just said, right, that, okay, so you go on it, and then the leadership team a year later has another plan, and they disrupt it, or there's a change in the leadership team, and they stop it, and they expect miracles, right? And that's not how it is. I was doing today a talk, and I said, one of the things, in my opinion, if you do things for the first time, things that you've never done before, what are the chances for success? No, not that big, right? You need to learn. That's what we know. But we don't have, in the old ways of working, if something went wrong, you had sort of a set of backup scenarios that you would run. Okay, this went wrong, so I do this now, and then I sort of fix it. But now, you're going into this agile, whatever agile means for you. And then, of course, because it's new to you, it's not successful as a team or as a group or as a company. And especially managers, when things are not going the way they want it, they intervene. And how do they intervene? In the old classical way, in the old mindset, they have a solution from the past. And I call it innovating backward. And even if you and I are able to help people to get in the process of change together and get forward, the managers will disrupt this. In my opinion, I got the question once on a 3 weeks ago on a conference. Arie, what is the top 3 of success factors in an agile transformation? I said the leadership team, and the leadership team. Because as long as they play the power game, people don't get the time to make the right change.
I'd like to put something in your top 3. I don't care if you put it the third one. But this is what I call a critical success factor in the adoption of a methodology. And that's that the team gets to decide or tune the methodology themselves. Right. So there's a difference, and I've had any number of companies, and ING literally being one of them, ING in Holland, in Amsterdam. But I first heard this in 1998 when I was in Norway, and we were trying to get object-oriented stuff. And this nice company, and they showed me their transformation over the previous 2 years, where they started and where they had gotten to. The guy said to me, it's interesting. If you had come to us 2 years ago and given us instructions to do exactly what we're doing today, we would have refused it. The fact that we created it was essential to us accepting it. So now, when we talk about an agile transformation, and here, I don't know what your relationships are with ING. I was there, I think, in 2017. And they were starting the merger with Belgium. And now I'm going to tell a story with a name. And they said, has to be some question. And they said, hey, we're so successful, we're going to roll this out. We have instructions, we have to roll this out across the whole world. And I said, that's called Dutch imperialism round 2. That was for you, Arie. I'm telling you this is for you, right? It's going to be refused, right? What do you think the Belgians are going to do? The Dutch come in and say, we have the answer, you have to work this way. Are they going to do it? No, they're going to fight you with every cell in their being. And you think it works in Japan? You think they're going to do that? Right? No. And I won't give the history, but my predictions were all correct. The reason ING was successful, like the company in Norway in 1998, was they developed their own. It was theirs. So when we talk about an agile transformation at the corporate level, and I have another tiny story in Australia, my favorite 2 companies, Aconex and, oh my gosh, what's our real estate associates, REA.com. They're the Spotify of Australia. but Henrik Knieberg didn't visit them, so they'd never been written up. Both of them have an informal cultural norm that no two teams work the same way. Like, I've been recommending a methodology per team since like forever, but these guys absolutely have kind of like, it's in their cultural norm. If another team is doing all of these things, you have to change at least one thing in your own team. You have to make it yours, right? So in your three, you could say executive, but for me, a critical success factor in any of these movements is the self creation or modification or tuning by the people, right?
Yeah, I like it a lot. What you most likely don't know, but when we wrote the manifesto, I started working for a company in the Netherlands called Solvision and later Division Web in 1997. I left the company in late 2006 or 7. So I spent like 10 years. And when I got in there in 1997, I was already, experimenting in what we call Agile today. I started doing that in 1994. That's also why they got me on board. But I was number 24 on the payroll. And by the turn of the century, 2.5 years later, we had 700 people, and it was all autonomous growth. And the question is always, how do you do this? And we had all those autonomous teams, and a team could be 5, a team could be 25. It was up to the team. You had your own product or service, whatever you call it, that you put in the market. You had your own marketing, you had your hiring, your firing. You did your own internal evaluation. We decided on our own salaries. I could raise my own salary if I wanted to, right on the spot. There would be people asking questions about it, but this is how we worked. That sense, and we make mistakes, right? Don't get me wrong, but that sense of work in real self-organizing teams, that is something that you need to facilitate as an organization. There need to be some sort of, when you talk about mindset, this mindset needs to be in there. And we had a couple of guys that started the company, I think 1996 or something, just before I joined them. And they, maybe you know him, they were all three reading the book of Ricardo Semco Style, and they got the inspiration for self-organizing teams. And when you look at especially at the principles of the manifesto, where you say maximizing the work not done and trusting people to get the job done, those kind of things, those were the ones for me, the most relevant ones, because I could see the success in the teams going on. And for example, in that company, as a team, you got at the beginning of the year, so okay, this is more or less your target. So if you have an EBIT like this percentage, the percentage above, we split, and you can build your bonus as a team. How you divide your bonus, up to you, right? And every team did it in its own way. As long as, and there was only one criteria. As a team, you need to be aligned on it. And what I see, because you mentioned Henrik Knieberg, I remember that Spotify is not a model. This is how it worked for Spotify. But what managers do, now I'm coming back to my leadership thing, managers say, well, yeah, we're going to do the Spotify model. And then I think,
that's because it's easy to buy structure, right? We're back to the buying.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and the point I was at a client of mine in Bucharest a couple of years ago, and there was on the wall a quote that's supposed to be from either Winston Churchill or Cardinal Newman. In the whole discussion lately, both of them are not so popular anymore, but I like the quote. And it's like this, it's written on the wall there, very big, and it says, "Perfection is not a state. Perfection is an ambition. And to reach your ambition, you need to change a lot. So perfect people change a lot." And I like to replace, sometimes a slide in PowerPoint, and I replace perfect by agile. But what people do in the old school thinking, the old management styles, the old bureaucracies, the old HR your personal development plans, that kind of stuff, it's pre-described what you do. And you have to do it exactly as it's told. And you have to follow the steps, up the waterfall even, to get there. And people hang on to that kind of paradigm. It's predefined. So people buy one book and say, this is it. No, this is not it. It's just a start. And that sense of, I always invite people when I'm on stage, because I say you have the concept of agile, then you have the methodologies, and every methodology has practices. And the practices where you work, that's what you do. And if you invent tomorrow an agile practice that's brilliant, please go on stage and share it with others so they can adopt it from you, right? And I think that back to mindset again. People just want to go to the next fixed state to understand.
So I have a question I've been dying to ask you, like, since forever, because the DSDM, I don't know to what extent you were involved in the construction of the 9 principles of DSDM. Were you involved in that, or you came in after that?
By the way, the very first version of DSDM from February 1995 had 13 principles. And then shortly after, I don't know the exact delivery, they went into the 9. And right after, I joined the consortium. Yeah, so I was not, but what's the question? Maybe I can answer it.
Well, it's just I didn't see that right before when we were in 2001, and I came down off the mountain, and like, you know, the next week I looked at the 9 principles and I went, shit, we could have just taken those 9 completely for the Agile Manifesto. Like it's perfect. So I was curious, like how were those 9 constructed, or the 13? I don't care which, but they were brilliant.
Yeah. What struck me, because I started doing different things in 1994, and I was my fundament where I started was rapid application development, and I never did it according to the book. I always also started to do extra things, to get all the things out of the way that were hindering, to avoid delay, as I always say. And so you make your notes, right? So like today, you have a little sketchbook with you, you make your notes. And then the DSDM consortium in the summer of 1997 comes to the Netherlands. And I walk at a client site and I see a poster with those 9 principles. And I thought, who the fuck stole my notes?
Yeah.
And this is common sense, because it's not hypothetical behind the desk. This is because the notes, DSDM is based on the rapid application development user groups. So we had sort of the same background. So you have the same lessons learned, and you come to normal common sense solutions. And this is the problem, I think, that I was a year ago, I was in Sweden. This is 2019. And we talk about Agile. And the question was, what academic research is the fundament for this Agile movement? And I said, there is no academic research. It's fucking best practice, man. That's what we talk about. And the question, and I mean, any question is a good question, right? Go on. But it profiled the person exactly in, this is how I see the world. And that's what you bump in all the time.
So I know we have to go. And I also know that the theme this year is agnostic agile. And I don't know if that's like this or the December 9th thing. So I just want, and I don't know what you're really up to these days, but I want to just do this because you might not have seen this so far, Arie. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So I did this 5 years ago. A guy challenged me to do something, and this is what I did. And I said, you really only need these 4 words. So it's a lot shorter than the Agile Manifesto. And the manifesto is full of values, and values aren't actionable. So I made imperatives. So I made imperative verbs. They're commands, right? So they're actionable. Go do it. And it's been very interesting because I just live inside these 4 words these days, and they cover everything. There's different techniques inside of them, different insights. So I don't even I don't even have my name or anything. There's just like 4 words. And this is a meme I just put out there. Just collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve, right? That just shut up, go do that. Everything else
I can't agree more. I mean, I think you took your angle on those 4 commands, and they're very actionable. What I struggle with in this way of working is that people always point at someone or something else. It's the organization, it's the culture, it's the manager, it's the people in the teams. It's always someone else. So I thought, okay, And what I mean to say is, because it's up to you how you handle situations. Yeah. And it's up to you what you do with it. And I don't mean about, getting seriously ill. You can't control those kind of things. But in everything that happens in your life, it's up to you what you do with it. And my decision, for example, to go in what we call Agile today was taken in 1994 by myself when I was in the Dutch IRS, and we were 30 people, 7 months working full-time on a project, and they just killed it. I came in the morning, and then 50 minutes later I was out, and millions were wasted. And I just went to the office, and I said, I'm not going to do this ever anymore. And I was, at that moment in time, I was 30 years old. And I thought, if they're going to fire me, they fire me. Because, fucking this, I'm my own architect. I decide what I do in my life, not anyone else. But most people are held hostage, right, by the mortgage. I don't know what it is, the safety, the comfort zone, right? So actionable items, and take responsibility, right? Don't point at someone else.
There you are. Very good. All right, Jerónimo.
Okay, my friends. I need to tell you that it was never easier to facilitate or moderate a talk. So you really made my life easy, and it was
the questions, man. It was
it's a great talk.
The silence, just beautifully.
Okay, no, well, I really would like people that has joined us to pop some questions. One question that popped up is this. Okay, is what do you think it's agility a viable alternative to bureaucracy in organizations outside the software development scope?
Yeah, that's the trivial yes, and I think Arie would agree.
Absolutely.
My comment here is I was in Salt Lake City with Jim Highsmith in 2001, and about 6 months later, I was over at his house, and he looks at me and he says, this has really got very little to do with software, you realize. And so we both go, yeah, that was 2001. There are still one or two authors of the manifesto who say, by God, it says agile in the software in the manifesto. You can only use it for software. And I go, what? Look, these principles, these ideas, we have people applying them to like getting water to a village, raising children, schools, churches. It's governments everywhere. It's got nothing to do. The base idea, what I say, it's an accident of history that a bunch of software people, programmers, figured this out first. But other people would have gotten there sooner or later. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe Alistair, if I can add on this, I started my IT career at least as a developer in 1987. But when I made my switch in 1994, I became at that time a project manager. And for me, it meant full delivery. And I had what we call a backlog today, but there was part of the backlog for the software development team, and part of the backlog was for education and training, and part of the backlog was for the marketing communication team, because I had to go to the market with a new product. And we were working like this. So for me, it has never been exclusively IT only. No, not. And people, it must happen to you as well, Alistair, that people ask you, if you would write it again, what would you do differently? I would take out the word software and replace it by solution or service or project or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. And responding to change should be responding to feedback. Henrik Knieburg changed the two words software to value and the word change to feedback, right? So working value, that's the touch the world to get real feedback, and responding to feedback. And then it's completely general.
I totally agree. And this is why I'm always working, because we have in most organizations, we have software development teams or solution development teams, and the business and the poor product owner is in the middle, right? I put the business at the table with the development team, information at the source, talk to each other, right? And that's the kind of thing that requires the attitude. Here we go again. The mindset has to change. But for me, that is not connected to software development exclusively, of course, in there as well. But if you do a recruitment campaign like in Central Europe, where they have a shortage of IT people, where they have high churn, I think the English word is, where people go in and out companies, you need to be really good. So they do recruitment campaigns in an agile way. Why not? Right, that kind of thing. So it's more the old thinking and that bloody word of software in the manifesto that creates this platform.
Full credit there. It's easier to come up with something that's very specific. Then you're clear. You're not trying to solve all problems in the world. We knew how to deal with software. We were talking about software. That's very fine. Then you look at it again and you pull out, right? You scrape off the software bits and you find the essential underneath it. And then you go, that can now reapply in different places. Yeah. So I don't have any objection that, we were programmers talking about software in 2001. But I think that the people who 20 years later say it only applies to software, they really need to, get the wax out of their ears and clean their eyes. Hey, so Jero, I'm going to stay here for no more than 5 minutes more. So is this the question you want from Dilio?
Yeah, Diglio Simoni, he asking us if empowering team self-organization implies accepting a period of disruption. But then how do you distinguish between purposeful movement and anarchy?
So I have an interesting and strange answer, but I've been going first, so I would love it if Arie takes the first turn at this one.
What always strikes me, because I think in teams you have to go the disruption, but the disruption is only there when people are not ready to adopt this. As I said, in 1997 we started working like this in Solvision. We never ever had any disruption at all. This was just how we worked, and people that joined us because we worked like this. So it was going. So the disruption is there when you have to change old habits, when you know that set of habits that you share, and then I think you have to try to find a way to do it collectively, because in the end, as an organization, you wanna bring something as an organization to either your market, or if you're a governmental organization, to the public, whatever you do, right? I'm not a fan of the word anarchy, but sometimes it takes a little bit, and sometimes it needs a little bit of that, right? But I think at the same time it's purposeful. But you need to understand together, you have to some sort of alignment that you do it, and trying to at least sense people, okay, we need to do this together. And I have to say that one of the most, I don't know if it was anarchy, but one of the purposeful movements that I've seen in the last couple of months is that all of a sudden everybody stops traveling and we start doing remote sessions. What has been stopped by the world for years because it was impossible and it wasn't working and it wasn't efficient. All of a sudden we can do this, right? So you have to understand that maybe that anarchy, because COVID has brought maybe anarchy, or that sometimes can give that push. But in the end, you have to make sure that things are purposeful for the organization.
So in my answer, I'm not going to actually give a useful answer. So I'll preface, this will not be a useful answer. But it's just to illustrate the way I think about things, and I'm watching Jero's face because he understands something here. I focus on the word you, and I ask myself, who's the you in that question, right? Because, right, how do you distinguish? Now, who are the you that are busy trying to distinguish, right? So you're either inside the team or you're a manager. And I'm reading that you is as a manager who's attempting to get a team to do self-organization, and they're busy doing, random movements that don't make sense. And the you is the manager trying to decide if that person is going to step in and intervene or not. But I agree that Scrum is very optimistic. And this is the difference between Scrum and Crystal. Scrum says, put 9 people together and do this and all things will go well. Well, yeah. And what if they don't go well? Then what are you going to do, right? Then what do you do? And so Crystal and all of my work is trying to figure out where are the knobs and dials that affect that you get better or worse. But you put the people together and they get lost, they don't find a leader, they fight, they can't agree, they've got value differences, they got ego differences, you have a big mess. It's not a guarantee that you're going to come out with a good group at the end. And so I come back to the you. Like if you're in the middle of that, you get no more voice than anybody else. You do whatever you can. If you're the manager and you're watching this group, then there's a question of how are you going to intervene? Are you going to intervene in, as you said, Arie, in the classical manner by bringing old structure in? Or what's the manner of intervening to turn it? So I just got struck by the word "you" in the question, and that's why I didn't say it was a useful answer, but I'm illustrating how I think about these things. So, Hero, there we are.
Okay, Alistair, thank you very much. I know you need to leave, and I really would like to thank you a lot for being here. Arie, I would like to thank you a lot for being here. I think it's an honor, it's a privilege to be witnesses, to be here with you in this conversation of friends.
Well, no, we're both honorary faculty at the University of Champagnat. Now we have to have a shout out to the University of Champagnat, right? So here's my thing. I just, as long as we're here, we have to shout out to the University of Champagnat. So this was a conversation between two honorary professors at the University of Champagnat.
Yeah. Well, it's been really an honor. It's always a privilege, and we're always going to be thankful for this moment, for this conversation, and for all the ideas you have shared with us that are very enlightening. And I really felt transparency and total honesty in the way you communicate, the way you think, the way you see things, and the way we should understand your work about agility. And we're really thankful for that.
It was my pleasure.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think now Javier is going to leave a video for the people who is attending to the conference. I really want to thank everybody who has joined us, all the people that made questions and it's supporting this Congress. And okay, without further ado, thank you, Arie, thank you, Alistair, and thank everybody who is here.
Bye, Arie. See you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hope to see you again pretty soon in person.
Who knows?
Abrite a la ciencia. ¿Te llama la atención la programación web? ¿Te resulta fácil resolver problemas? Los sistemas informáticos están presentes en todo el mundo. Aprende a desarrollar, administrar y mantener aplicaciones y redes para vincularte con el futuro.
Apasionate por la informática. Facultad de Ciencias Exactas, Físicas y Naturales, Universidad Nacional de San Juan.
Encontrarás el programa de Ingeniería de Sistemas y Telecomunicaciones, el cual ofrece a aquellos jóvenes creativos e innovadores la posibilidad de liderar el despliegue de soluciones tecnológicas de la información y la comunicación. Ven y haz parte de nuestra familia universitaria.
Universidad Católica de Pereira, donde quiero estar con más calidad.
El mundo no se detiene. Tu proyecto de vida tampoco. Estudia con nosotros Comunicación Social y Periodismo, Psicología, Licenciatura en Educación Religiosa, Profesional en Diseño Audiovisual, Diseño Industrial, Arquitectura, Ingeniería Industrial, Ingeniería de Sistemas y Telecomunicaciones, Tecnología en Desarrollo de Software, Administración de Empresas, Mercadeo, Negocios Internacionales, Tecnología en Gestión del Mercadeo. Para más información, escríbenos al 301-387-7446 o ingresa a www.ucp.edu.co. En la Universidad Católica de Pereira te asesoramos con el corazón.